barbecue and other things I want to do. I'm Big Lou, and this is what I've got going on for you. It certainly falls into the other things I want to do category. It's certainly not barbecue. I'm going to talk about some coffee methods. I kind of like coffee. I'm not really consider myself a coffee snob, but kind of become one, I guess. I'm going to do some Turkish coffee, some Italian coffee, and some French press coffee. And I've been thinking about doing this video for well over a year now. I haven't thought about how I wanted to do it. Do I want to do 3 separate videos? Do I want to do one video with 3 different segments? Or do I just want to do it all together? And I've decided I'm going to do it all together. And today's a good day to do it. It's just after 6 a.m. in the morning, and it is a nasty, rainy day. It rained all day yesterday, rained all night long. It's supposed to rain today, so I'm not barbecuing. So I'm under my patio here. It's morning, and I'm going to make some coffee. Now, a little backstory on this. In 2013, I got exposed to Turkish coffee for the first time when I went to Turkey and Greece. Turkish coffee is also popular in Greece. Those are Mediterranean countries, hence the name of the video, right? And boy, did I like Turkish coffee. Well, a couple years ago now, my wife went to Epcot Center and with my daughter, and they brought me back some Turkish coffee, and I made a little video on it, and I didn't really have the equipment, all right? I did it in the smallest pot I had. You really need to have an Ibrik. So shortly after that video, I got some comments about you need to have the right equipment, and I went out and bought an Ibrik, and I've enjoyed making Turkish coffee since then. Espresso is something I figured out in college when I was in the early 90s, and when I first got married about 20 years ago, I got one of the stovetop Moka pots, espresso maker things, and I've been making coffee with those. I like to make espresso. I usually drink the Turkish coffee or the espresso at night. And a couple years now, I've been interested in French press coffee, and you know what? France is also a Mediterranean country, so I'm calling it Mediterranean coffee. So let's look at the equipment we're going to use. We're going to make some Mediterranean coffee. It's starting to rain harder, and if the lighting's bad in here, I may have to fire up that Coleman North Star right there, right there. All right, so we'll see how it goes. All right, Big Lou barbecue. All right, well, I fired up the little Coleman 285. It hisses a little less. All right, for the heat sources, I'm going to be using the Coleman dual fuel 533. Love this stove. Some people say simmering's tricky, and it can be, but if you've got the right pressure, it'll simmer, right? This one simmers like a dream. It's the Coleman 550B. Back in the 80s, it was sold under the Peak 1 name. This is a 1989 version. Then they painted it copper, sold it under the Exponent name. They quit making it about 4 or 5 years ago. By the way, according to the Coleman website, the 533 is not on the American Coleman website, but I still see it on the European Coleman website. So I guess they still make it for the European market. And this is a 1973 Coleman 502. It's the one I used in the Turkish coffee video. Let's look at the coffee pots. All right, well, after that Turkish coffee video, which I made with this small pot here and that 502 stove, I got some criticism for not having a proper Ibrik. This is a Turkish coffee pot. In English, we call it an Ibrik. Well, what I found out, because y'all know I like to study languages, is that in Turkish, Ibrik just means pitcher, and Cezve, that's C-E-Z-V-E, I believe, is what they actually call it in Turkish, but in English, they call it an Ibrik, or Turkish coffee pot. All right, and that's what I use nowadays. Turkish coffee is very, very finely ground, more finely ground than espresso. It is just a very fine, baby powder fine ground. And I don't have a grinder, I'm just using store-bought Turkish coffee. All right, now, for the Italian coffee, I got this when I was about just newly married. I was in my late 20s or early 30s. It's an Amusa brand, which is a brand that's popular in Latin America for Latin American cooking. This style of coffee is popular in Italy and Spain and many areas in Latin America. I often use the Cafe Bustelo espresso grind in these, but they get a lot of grounds in there. I also often use just the all-purpose Folgers. That's all-purpose Folgers grind black silk. All right, I don't use this anymore. I moved to this house 4 years ago. We have an induction stove. Aluminum doesn't work on an induction stove, and I don't really like cooking with aluminum much anyway. Nowadays I use a stainless steel Violetti. It works on my induction stove, and I use this at least once weekly, if not twice a weekend, and sometimes even on weekdays in the evenings I use it on my induction stove. But I've got this one that I've never used. It's the Violetti Moka Cafe, and I believe they've changed the name to the Break. You can buy them with different color balls on top. It's aluminum. I bought it about a year and a half ago maybe, and I've never used it because, like I said, I usually do this inside on the induction stove. So I figured it's a good time to break that one in. So we're going to use that. And then for the French press, I don't have a kettle. I'm going to use a small pot to heat the water, and we're going to press it right there in that French press. It looks dirty, but it's just fogged up because it's kind of cool and rainy and whatever. So the beaker is not dirty. I cleaned it. All right, let's get started. I'm probably going to reset the camera here to a higher angle and show you what we're doing. Well, we need to light the stoves. Hey, the Moka espresso, stovetop espresso, and the Turkish coffee is served in these little small cups. The French press is more like a traditional American brew, and I'm going to be serving it in a regular coffee cup with a big L on it for Lou. All right, before we light the stoves, this one will run on kerosene, or it'll run on white gas or unleaded gas. I have it set to run on kerosene. I've got pumped kerosene in it right now. All right, this one, Coleman still made these for the American market up to recently. You used to be able to buy them at Walmart for about $25 or $30. Now they're about $60 to $75. Anyway, it'll run on Coleman fuel, white gas as I call it, or unleaded gasoline. I prefer to use the white gas. This is what I'm using, you know, white gas, camp fuel, Coleman fuel, all right? It's basically unleaded gas with about 55 octane and not a lot of junk in it, all right? And this one runs on Coleman fuel. I wouldn't use unleaded gas in it unless it's an extreme emergency. And it's 1973 model, so I use the pure fuel in it. All right, let's get them lit. All right, this one runs on, I got it set for run on kerosene, so I've got to prime it. It's got to heat this little tube up to evaporate the kerosene for it to turn to gas and cook. So you put some alcohol in this bowl right there like that. And then we light that alcohol and get it burning first. And well, you know what? You can do it this way, not recommended at home. There we go. Got that blue flame, I'm gonna let that heat up. Now, these that run on white gas, they're self-priming. They're gonna have yellow flames come out first. Once these tubes heat up and evaporates the fuel in there, it'll burn as a gas and get a tight blue flame on it. That one's already starting with a blue flame, and it's kind of cool out here, so there it goes. Got to get that, let it flame up like that. And this one, and we'll get them down to simmer here in a minute. We'll start this one up in just a second. That one went out. Makes it fun, don't it? Wild times, wild, wild times. That one's acting crazy. This was perfect. Love this one. Yeah, it's newer, not made with the same quality materials, but it works a whole lot better than this old 502 does, in my opinion. I flooded it. All right, this one should be about ready to start. Alcohol's just about burned out, but I'm gonna let it keep going because I want that kerosene to heat. We having issues with this one. Be right back. Let's start this one up. There we go. Got to get this one going good. I don't know what's the matter with it. Worked last night when I tested it. All right, that temperamental 502 and I had a come to Jesus meeting, but I got it lit, all right? And it found Jesus. It found the Lord, and it's burning bright. All right. That one works great. This one simmers like nobody's business, even with kerosene. This is a little temperamental to get simmering, but it simmers well if you keep the right pressure in it. I'm turning down the simmer. We're going to get started. All right, like Target lady, simmer down now. Simmer down now, because we don't want these too hot. Simmer down now. There we go. All right, let's first fill this one up. You take it apart like this. It's got that rubber ring in there. Never used this one before. I've used the other two several times. All right, it takes about 1 ounce of coffee. You can use espresso grind, but you get a little more sediment. It works well with just all-purpose grind. So just using Folgers, but I often use that Cafe Bustelo stuff. That's good stuff from Puerto Rico. All right, you fill this right to that release valve with water. Where's my water? All right, found my water. You do not want to overheat this. Fill it right to the release valve with the water. Drop in that, like that. Screw that on tight so that the pressure doesn't come out. All right, Mr. Bialetti. I'm gonna let you go right there like that. And you lift this up, and the coffee's gonna squirt out of here. If it squirts too fast, you're burning it. It should kind of just ooze and drip down the side. That's why you want this on a simmer. All right, now, French press, gonna go quicker. We're gonna put about 1.5 cups of water in here. Bring that to a boil. And now the Turkish, I want 6 ounces of water. What you want is about a teaspoon to 2 fluid ounces, or in other words, 1 ounce to about 6 ounces of water. So I got 6 ounces of water going in the Ibrik. We're gonna set it right there on top like that. Now we're just gonna dump this coffee in here, like that. Take my handy dandy stirring spoon and stir it. While we wait on that to come to a boil, go ahead and fill up my French press. Putting 2 ounces. By the way, I don't know if I told you, but I'm using French vanilla. Why not use French vanilla in the French press, right? About 2 ounces to about 1.5 cups of water. We want that water to come up to 190 degrees, 195 or so like that. Doesn't have to come all the way to a boil. This needs to come to a boil twice. The oldest coffee brewing method, from what they say, is this Turkish coffee method. Keep stirring it. Let it come to a boil. All right, that came to a boil. And once it comes to a boil, you take it off, let it calm back down. And it comes to a boil again, you take it off and let it cool down, and that's it. Turkish coffee is done. All right, French press coffee. That's at about 190, that's about where we need it to be, 170, 175. It's got to go a little hotter, but we're almost there. Stir this Turkish coffee. It's just off camera. I don't know if you can see it. Smells delicious. And that, you see how it's just kind of running down the sides? That's what you want. If it's squirting out too much, it's too hot. So this is brewing here. All right? I don't know if you can, let me see if I can take you in a little bit and see that. You see, you just want it kind of dripping down the sides of that. You don't want it squirting out, and it looks like the Italian coffee is done. All right? That's French press now. We want to take this off the heat, turn this stove off. I neglected to turn the camera on when it's time to pour up the French press, so I decided I'd reenact it. Gave me an excuse to make another cup the next morning. The stove behaved better when the water came up to a boil. I turned the stove off and I let it cool down to about 190. Checked it with that pocket IR thermometer right there. And then poured it into the French beaker like that and stirred it up with my pocket knife because I didn't have the spoon out there with me that morning. Put the lid on, and now we go back to your regular program. All right, it's been about time. What we do is we just slowly press this down. And it pushes all the grounds to the bottom, so you don't get as much sediment like you do with the Turkish coffee. But that Turkish coffee is ground finer, so a lot of it just dissolves in the water. And the ground goes all the way down, and we just pour up a nice cup in the Big Lou L cup. This is a rich, bold, flavorful cup of coffee here. Guys, it's taste test time. All right, we got the Turkish, got the spoon and the saucer here, the Moka, the stovetop espresso, whatever, in a little Bialetti cup. First time I've used it, looks delicious. Got the French press, Mediterranean coffee. All right, come up here, let's taste test it. First, this Turkish, got that foam on it. I love this stuff. I like this in the evening when I sit out by that chimenea, and I usually do it right here on the camp stove outside because my Ibrik doesn't work on my induction stove inside anyway. Oh, man, I love Turkish coffee. And guys, this is a whole lot better than that first video I did with the Turkish coffee. I'm actually using a Turkish coffee cup and an Ibrik, Cezve in Turkish. All right, I'm gonna have more of that. Now, if you wanna sweeten this, you can sweeten it as you brew the coffee. You can put the sugar in there, or you can put the sugar at the bottom of the cup. I'm not Turkish, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. So this is not authentic. It's just how I like to do it. All right. First time I've used this one. I've used the other two. Used to use that Emusa one for years. And since we moved in this house, I used the stainless steel one. I've never used this aluminum one. Had it about 1.5 years now. Let's see how this stovetop espresso comes out. My crema has come off the top and don't have a lot of crema on it. But the key to this is you can burn it easy. If you got it squirting out of the top and it's gargling real loud, that's too hot. You want it to just ooze out, and then you get it perfect. You know, it's cooled off some since I poured it up, but it's still really good. It's got a little tiny burn taste to it. I might have overdone it just a little bit, but it's not bad. Now this rich, smooth French vanilla French press. Hey, thanks for watching Big Lou Barbecue. I gotta go caffeinate myself. Got lots of coffee to drink. That's really good, y'all. All right, hey, look, I don't speak Turkish. I don't speak Italian. I don't speak French. Not very well. But I do know how to say this in Spanish. Gracias por mirar. Thanks for watching Big Lou Barbecue.